All right, everyone, here we go with the notes for Chapter 9, Basic and Premium Cable Subscription Programming. This chapter is broken up into 3 videos. Part A, this video, covering sections 1 and 2 of your notes. Subscription content networks is an overall term that encompasses all kinds of television program services requiring fees to subscribe. The MVPDs, that is, your local cable operators, pay monthly fees to include specific subscription networks on their services, and then they in turn charge their subscribers enough to cover those fees, and hopefully a little bit more so that they make a profit. These channels are what we commonly call today cable networks, the formal name subscription content networks. Simultaneous distribution of the same channel can happen in 3 different ways. It can happen by means of analog, by digital, and by high definition. The analog becoming less and less necessary these days as most of us have moved on to digital and HD content. Digital niche channels owned by more established networks provide specialized programming. So, for example, the History Channel offering military history and history in Espanol to help to kind of bolster their channel for those various audiences. Several digital networks split their programming into separate virtual channels. So, for example, you have National Geographic, and then you have National Geographic Wild. You also have somewhere around 17 different flavors of Showtime that's available out there for just about every taste. You also have splintering by means of different feeds for different parts of the country. There's an East Coast feed and a West Coast feed that is many times going to be available by the cable networks. Some smaller broadcast networks will duplicate themselves as cable channels. ION is a great example of this. They are available in the broadcast television world, generally on low-powered television stations. But if ION wants to be seen in a market where they're not being broadcast on regular television, they will also use cable coverage to help them out as well. As of 2013, which is the data provided in your textbook, cable television was in 92% of U.S. households. That has changed significantly in the past several years. As of 2019, the number is now 44% of American households subscribing to cable TV. And you can imagine that has a lot to do with people cutting the cord, either just to rely on broadcast television or a stronger reliance on streaming content that is now available. Foundation networks are generally the earliest, most firmly established, and most popular cable networks. These are the guys that have been around from the beginning. This is your USA Network, your TBS network. Nickelodeon would be included in that fray. In the premium cable world, HBO would be included in that. Niche or theme networks are usually either going to have a single program content type, or they're going to have a targeted demographic group. So this would be your Comedy Central or your Food Network, things like that. Branded sub-niche networks, this is where the product of further specialization within a theme network happens. So, for example, this would be a lot of the splinter networks that tend to be out there. So you have Discovery Channel, and then you have Investigation Discovery that is available. Digital compression encompasses a process called multiplexing. It's distributing several different channels at the same time. You can squeeze as many as 12 different channels of content onto the bandwidth formerly used by one old analog channel. So it makes the availability of a whole lot more content being available through practices like digitalization and compression. Micro-niche networks target even more specialized population subgroups. This could be programming for the hearing impaired. This can be foreign language types of programming, or things that focus on a very specialized sort of interest. And many of these broadcasts you're only going to find online as opposed to widely available on a cable subscription. Now, let's talk about different types of premium subscription services. Premium service, that's basically an umbrella term for a group of specialized entertainment services that provide specialized or premium programming. And many times we tend to think of these as channels that provide content to us commercial free, although as more and more sports channels are becoming premium services, that's not necessarily the case anymore. The premium television field has long had three distinct components. There is the pay cable networks themselves, charging viewers a monthly subscription premium. There is pay-per-view, or PPV, and this charges customers on a program-by-program basis. And many times these are going to be things that are scheduled on a special channel that you would have to call up or click on your remote to access that particular content for that particular time. And then video on demand is kind of the same thing, but it's instead of watching the content at a certain time like you would on a regular channel, it's pretty much available whenever you are ready to consume the content. 4 different formats of video on demand. VOD, just basic video on demand, delivers movies or programs as the consumer asks for them for a per program fee. There's also free video on demand, where content is available without charge, many times padded with advertiser content, or it's content that is much older, or maybe educational, or for whatever reason, the cable provider provides that content without charge to you. Subscription video on demand is a separate monthly fee being charged to access a wide array of content. This would be kind of cable television's equivalent to your Netflix or Hulu. And download to own, an internet venue that relies on broadband connections so that you can purchase the content, you can download the content, and then the content is yours. Not all TV programs are available. For 3 reasons, MVPDs constantly seek to expand and update their television and movie listings. First off, an attractive on-demand lineup forestalls DVR use. So if content is available on demand just by the click of a few buttons, as opposed to having to record your show at a set time on a set channel, it will make it so that you use the on-demand service. It's much more convenient. Second, carrying the current hits keeps viewers from turning to competing online streaming services. Watch it on your TV instead of on your computer or smart device. And MVPDs are able to insert different commercials into television program breaks, which is a way for them to make revenue and a way for them to be able to control not just the commercials that you watch, but whether they can force you to sit through those commercials or not. So another reason they don't want you using the DVR feature. Convenience, however, is the real selling factor, because on demand comes whenever the subscriber wants it. I want it all, and I want it now. On demand. There you go. Fast forward may be disabled in key VOD shows to prevent skipping of commercials. Again, they hold the power. And that's the cost of making things convenient for you. Cutting down on churn. If more options and more conveniences are available to consumers, they will be more likely to continue paying for a service. If you like this service, if it's easy to use, if it has content that appeals to you, then you're more likely to stick with it. Switched digital video, I should say, directs channels only to customers that want to view them at that time. So basically what that means is that there may be several different options on your cable box for you to be able to watch various channels. But that doesn't mean that at that particular instant, all those channels are available on your particular box. You ever notice if you flip through the dial and you're going through different channels, sometimes it takes a second or two for that channel to manifest itself? That's more than likely a switched digital video channel for you, because it may not be worth it for the cable company to provide an instantaneous stream of that content to you at that point in time. They're saving bandwidth by not doing that. So they don't send the content to you until you call it up. Switched digital video. Competition among program services, differences between broadcast networks and subscription networks have the presence or absence of news programming. That can be a difference. Broadcast networks tend to have more reach because it's much easier for people to have a TV and put up an antenna. And once they do that, they get free over-the-air television, as opposed to paying a subscription month after month for television provided by cable. Broadcast networks spend more on content because there is a higher saturation of people able to access broadcast networks, and it still tends to be where a lot of the new content, the stuff that people talk most about, shows up first. Although streaming is catching on, and cable was catching on for a while. But again, the big budgets still tend to be with broadcast TV. And broadcast networks garner more press and more social network attention. Again, because they're shows that are widely available to a majority of the public, compared to not every show on cable being available to everybody. So more people talk about the shows that are widely available on broadcast TV. National cable networks are like wholesalers selling their product to retailers, that is, the local cable operators, in these 4 different ways. First off, there's the licensing of existing shows or financing original programming. There's the packaging of programming in a form acceptable to consumers. There's the delivery of programming via satellite to the MVPD. And they're supporting their product with national advertising, promotion, and advertising materials, and co-op dollars to local cable operators. So in this case, the various channels that are available, yes, ultimately they want to reach you, and they want you to be happy so that they can sell you, their audience, to potential advertisers that they have. But they also need to sell themselves to the local cable operator so that they will put their channel in their lineup. So, basic cable networks bid directly against local broadcast stations and against each other for the rights to the programming that they put on the air. Cable networks have consistently outbid broadcasters to get first rerun rights to newly available programming, especially hour-long dramas, some half-hour sitcoms as well. We talked in the chapter about syndication, that cable networks are becoming more and more likely to purchase syndication rights of a lot of different types of programming. And there's a certain amount of appeal for syndicators to team up with the cable networks and able to get a much larger national audience than what they might do going market by market to various broadcast stations across the country. And the competition for content has driven top cable networks into producing their own signature series. Production costs are very high, but the reward comes from having promotable content. So a lot of times where you will see a USA Network original, for example, that is something that the cable network has invested directly in to produce the content in hopes that it will be attractive enough to you, the audience, for you to tune in, and it becomes a show that the cable network is known for. That's where we get the term signature series from. So with that, let's take a break, and we will continue on with section 3 of your notes over at part B of this chapter.